Hello everyone, thank you for watching Edupedia World videos. So till now we have seen 8 transactions which are used in daily monitoring. So in this part 3 again we are going to see a different set of transactions, which are part of daily monitoring of the ABAP system. The first one is STO3N. It's the SAP Workload Monitor. The Workload Monitor is used to analyze statistical data from the SAP kernel. For example, you can display the totals for all instances and then compare the performance of individual instances over specific periods of time. You can quickly determine the source of possible performance problems using the large number of analysis views and the determined data. Also, this STO3N is the workload monitor transaction. This is used to analyze statistical data of the SAP system, and it's a part of the SAP kernel. So this is nothing but it's one of the SAP kernel is nothing but it's a set of executables which are used to run the SAP system. So this workload monitor transaction comes a part of that. So here you can display the totals for all the instances and you can compare the performances of individual instances over specific periods of time. You can quickly determine the source of possible performance problems using the large number of analysis view and determined data. So this is how a workload monitor looks like. So here we have the different modes. Here we have individual instances and we have the total. Total is nothing but it's the average of all the instances, because an SAP system has n number of instances. And here we have different views like workload overview, transaction profile, time profile, then memory usage, RFC profiles, user, front end, spool stats, everything. And here you have different, for a particular view you have the different components of that. So that's how it's displayed, and this is very useful in for performance analysis. So you can use the workload monitor to display the number of configured instances for the SAP system. You can see the number of configured instances, then you can see the number of users working on different instances, like how many users are there, then the distribution of response times. So a response time is nothing but it has different components. So you send a request from the client, that is your desktop or whatever it is, SAP client, to the SAP server. So it goes there, it waits for some time in the dispatcher queue, then the work process takes it, work process starts processing it, then it will use some some DB calls will be made, DB accesses will be made. Again it processes the request, again it sends to the presentation layer. So this is the total time. So here we can see the individual components, like for this particular task how the time was divided, because that's how you will find the various bottlenecks, like whether the CPU is a bottleneck or the memory is a bottleneck, or database access is a bottleneck or something, or the buffers, whatever it is. Then you can see the distribution of workload by transaction steps, transactions, package, sub-applications and applications. So for an individual report or a transaction which is run, you will see like how many transaction steps it has, what transaction it is, what report it is, everything in detail. The transactions with highest response time and database time. So it will display you everything for the selected instance and for the selected period. So you can, if you sort them in descending order, you will find the top ones which are using CPU, or the top database hitters, whatever it is. Then the memory usage for each transaction or each user per dialog step. Then even the memory usage also you can see. The workload through RFC listed by transactions, function modules and destinations. You can also see the workload, like the RFC through RFC also, like RFC workload is how much, etc. Then you can see the number and volume of spool requests, even the spool requests which are created, even that you can see. The statistics about response time distribution with or without the GUI time. So that's what the different components of the response times. Then you can see the table access, workload and transactions used by listed by users, payroll number and client, workload generated by request from external systems, even the external system calls and everything. So everything in detail you can see from this workload monitor. Okay, this is very good transaction which is used for analysis, performance analysis. Okay, so here you select the mode, you can select the different instances or the total. Okay, if you double click that, then this views will be presented, and whatever you want you can see. Okay, then you go into this transaction profile, okay, or whatever it is, RFC profiles, this front end stats, the spool stats, the response time distribution, everything. Okay, see here in the normal or the workload overview. Okay, so the instance and the period defined when workload scope. Total means the whole system, total means the entire SAP system. Okay, then the period will be displayed here, and the available analysis views for the selected workload. These are the different views. Okay, and this is the display. Okay, you can scroll it and you can see. Okay, so every response time will have subcomponents. Okay, it will have a CPU time. CPU time means the time which is used by the work process, the CPU, the actual CPU processing, how much it is used. Then the database time, then for database call is made, like how much time it is made. Okay, sometimes first it checks in the buffer. If it finds in the buffer, then no need to make an access to the database. So the total number of database calls and the database access. Okay, so these things are very important for database tuning. Then you can see the roll time, roll in and roll out. We know, right, like when context switch is made, like from one work process to another, it has to first it rolls out the information and again it rolls in the new information of the user context. So okay, then the roll wait time. Okay, so in the work process, like for this rollout and roll in process to need like the wait time for that. Okay, then you can see the wait time. Means the wait time, it means like how much time it is waiting in the dispatcher queue any request. Okay, so it is waiting for a work process to be picked up. Okay, so if wait times are generally high, means like there is some problem in your system, like either all the work processes are fully occupied or the system is with such a load, like how many work processes you have configured, all of them are running. Probably you have to check like why, like is there a sudden load on the system, or like the configured work processes are not enough. Okay, such tuning things, like that is known as the wait time. Here see the wait time, the DB time, the CPU time, average processing time, the steps. Okay, see, and these are the different task types. Okay, because task type all we have selected. Okay, so ALE, auto ABAP, auto CCMS, background, buffer, everything, like you have different tasks. Okay, so these are all the different tasks. Then dialogue, HTTP, you will have like dialogue processing, update processing, RFC calls, everything. So these are the different task types. Okay, so for that day, these for that particular day you have selected, these are all the different tasks and these are all the steps, and this is the time. Okay, you can see like which one is dialogue processing is more and background processing is more, like why it is high. Okay, if you go into a different set like transaction profile, if you go here, we have selected workload overview. If you go to transaction profile, then you can see like the different transactions which are listed and the corresponding times for them. Okay, and even you can use these tabs like user, all data, parts of the response time, role information database, like this. Okay, so user means it will show you like even like what user is, like different users utilizing these different task types or in the parts of the response time, all this. Okay, then even the load time. Okay, so for all of this data, you can display the data for a particular instance, not only the one to which you logged on, or optionally the total for all instances. Depending on your user mode, you can choose the time period for which you want to display the data between the day, week and month, or determine the length of time yourself using the last minute load function. So even you have here like the last minute load function. Okay, So whatever, and for most analysis view you can display all or certain or only certain task types. Okay, so for all instances or individual instances you can display the data. Okay, then you can choose the time period also, like you want a weekly aggregate, a monthly aggregate, or per day. Okay, even hourly snapshots, also time profile. If you choose, then hourly based it will show. Okay, and like for every view you can see like mostly all the task types or certain task types, like that. The workload monitor has an interface that is divided into two parts. Using the tree structure on the left side of the screen to make the following settings. You can select the user mode here, you can select the time period and the various functions and analysis view. So on the left side you can choose like what type of display you want. Okay, the system then displays the results on the right side of the screen in a standardized ALV grid control. With it you can adjust the layout of data output. So here, so left side is a tree structure to select okay what you want, and right side the data is displayed. You can find the information you want using sort and filter. Here like you have all options, you can sort or filter, and you can save also. You can download this into different excels or whatever it is, and you can display the statistics graphically also, like graph for a comparison. Even you can display graphically like using these options here. This shows you like the different settings, okay, for displaying. Okay, so left side you select it and right side you display the data. Okay, so you can explore all these, once you log on to the system you can explore them individually. Okay, you can select each one of this view, and if you explore them then you will get an idea like what it is actually. Okay, what type of data it is displaying. So the STO3N workload monitor is very useful transaction, okay, to check the workload of the system. It's very useful for performance analysis. Okay, so and especially this transaction, when you have to do some reporting, like you have to list the top transactions in this day or this week or this month. Okay, so this is how you can select it, and you want to know like what are the most of the DB or the CPU hitters. Even then you can check from this. Okay, so how the workload is distributed, it helps you to analyze like where the problems are. Okay, and if you collect the stats over a period of time then you can compare them. Okay, say like if a transaction is occurring on your top list for continuously every week, then okay, then you can check like which time in the transaction is more there. Okay, and then you can analyze it from that angle. Okay, so for this is the first entry transaction for troubleshooting this performance issues in general. Okay, you can first come to know like where the problem is, then using other means then you can trace out like okay, now I have found out like some particular transaction, okay, is like every week it's in the top list and the DB time is high. Then you can check the program, you can trace it, you can debug it, and then you will come to know like why it is taking more DB time. Okay, so to identify the where the problem is, this transaction helps very much. Okay, it gives you the supporting stats. Now the next one is the database monitor. Now STO3N is the SAP workload monitor, STO4N is the database monitor. It checks important performance indicators in the database system, such as the database size, the quality of the database buffer, and database indexes. So this transaction is more specific to the database. Okay, so it'll give you various indicators which can be useful in determining the performance of the database, like the size, the quality of the buffers, and the indexes. The database monitor works with any database system supported by SAP. Okay, so in backend you can have any system. Okay, so this STO4 adjusts itself, okay, so that it will fetch data. It's like database independent. Okay, the monitor uses statistics that are provided by the database system with which you are working. You can use the database monitor to check the database during the operation of a production system, analyze various problems, fetch information required for the database system settings. Although the database monitor accesses and evaluates database specific statistics tables, it usually has the same appearance regardless of which database system you are using. You can call the database monitor from any application server of the SAP system. The same data is displayed by the database monitor. Okay, it's same on all application servers. Okay, so that's what. So using this database monitor, okay, like say here also you can see like the performance monitor, the space, the jobs, alerts and diagnostics. Okay, so this, and now you can run this transaction from any instance, because all the instances have they have the shared database. Okay, so the data is same, and in STO3 and also you can run the transaction from any instance, but there you have some filters, like which instance you want to choose to show the data or system wide. But since we have a single database in SAP system, so whatever output it is showing, it is same across all the application servers. Okay, so STO4 and transaction is also a part of SAP kernel. Okay, so it comes from the SAP package itself. Okay, we have seen ST06. SAP OS collector should be running to collect the stats from the operating system. Even this SAP OS collector also, it's nothing but it's a part of SAP kernel. Okay, but here you need not run any such external process as such. Okay, so if you run this transaction, data is automatically collected from the underlying database, and it's database independent. So here it shows various database parameters like the wait event analysis, the SQL statement analysis, so the top database headers, then the statistical information, the feature monitoring, additional functions, then unit space also you can monitor from here, like displaying the database usage, like table, how much space it is used, everything, individual table or at the database level or at the table spaces level. Then the jobs, various database jobs to collect the statistical information. Okay, then the alerts you can, okay, the alerts also you can check here, and the diagnostics like the trace files and everything. So this transaction is very important to track any performance issues from the database point of view. Okay, see here we are seeing the database size, then the quality, okay, then the default pool. Okay, all these things, the logical reads, the physical writes, and the buffer waits. Okay, the buffer wait time, all these things. Okay, then the shared pool. Okay, so the log buffers, the the calls, the time statistics, everything. Okay, so you can see the individual parameters for which help in analyzing the database performance. Okay, so that is STO4N. Now the next one is AL08. AL08 displays all the users, okay, who are logged on to an SAP system. So to get an overview of the users logged on to an SAP system sorted by instance, you can use AL08 transaction. So here this will list first of all the total number of instances, the number of active users, the interactive users are the dialog users, the number of RFC users, and the plugin, like from the HTTP, the web users. Okay, so and even individual instance level you can list them, like the client, the user, the terminal. Okay, then the transaction code, the time, external session, internal session, everything. Okay, so this shows the active instances, shows the active instance. Okay, active users displays the active users logged on to the active instance. Then the interactive instance users displays the dialog users logged on to the active instance. RFC users display the users that are connected via RFC. Okay, through RFC you can have n number of RFC calls. So like these RFC users are also listed. Then you can see the client number. Okay, man means the client number. Okay, then you can see the user name, you can see the terminal from which the user has logged in, then the T code. Okay, which transaction code that user is running. Then you can see the time. Okay, the time when a user last initiated a dialog step by entering the data. Okay, And then the external sessions, number of external sessions the user has opened. Okay, so when you log on to an SAP system, you can open some sessions. Okay, you can view multiple, you can run multiple transactions. It uses SAP memory to share data between the external sessions, and it's based on per main window. An external session is started when starting a program and whenever the use of a call transaction is made. Each user can open a maximum of 6 SAP windows in a single SAP GUI screen. Okay, so you can say like /o, you can run different transactions. In one screen I have opened SM51, and another screen I can open the CL08, and another screen I can open STO3, and another screen I can open STO4, and /o. If you type in that top transaction menu, and if you press enter, a different screen will be opened. So likewise, you can, by default, you can open 6 windows. Okay, and internal session, number of internal sessions the user has opened. A session that is within external session. There can be many internal sessions in an external session. ABAP memory is used to exchange the data between internal sessions. When calling a program using submit or call transaction, it will be loaded in a new internal session. Okay, so here you can have many internal sessions for an external session. You are running one STO3, but to process that internally SAP has to generate many sessions. Okay, so that is for one external session SAP will generate inside n number of internal sessions. Okay, so that's you can only, external sessions like only you can view outside. Internal sessions are maintained by SAP. Okay, so AL08 gives the immediate snapshot of the number of users logged on to the different instances. So it shows you like all the users. So here see 5 destinations with 204 users. Okay, 205 users. So total in the SAP system 205 users are there. You can see like how many are there, dialog present. If you refresh the screen, you can see immediately right now how many users are there. Okay, right now how many total users are there, dialog users are there, RFC users are there, and HTTP users are there. Okay, and this will immediately tell you like if there is any load balancing problem. You have just checked, and like the number of active users on instance 1 is high, 100 users are there, and instance 2 3 are having 0 users, then there is some problem in this load balancing. Okay, similarly, like if you see so many RFC users onto a particular server only, like then somewhat like the RFC calls which are made are hit at one server only. Similarly, the HTTP users. Okay, so then you can adjust the settings. Okay, and if you want to know like from which terminal that user is logging, okay, whether that user sometimes what happens is like when there is a network breakdown, suddenly your session will be disconnected. Okay, you will be disconnected from the SAP server, but your ID may be active here. Okay, and sometimes like users tend to get mails like I am seeing your session active, okay, from the basis admins, but user will see no, I am not active, I have logged off long time back, or yesterday or day before yesterday, I don't know what is happening. Okay, then you can check here, you can see like which instance he is there, which the user. Okay, then you can go and end his session also. Okay, even though you SAP like when there is a sudden network breakdown, you will here on the front end you will be logged off, but in the SAP server your ID will be there. Then you can ask them to kill your session also. So the administrator, you can, as an administrator, you can check from this code. Okay, and you can identify like on which instance you are active, you can go there and kill your session also. Okay, and here it also shows you the time. Okay, from here, and if you want to track somebody, like here you can check like which user from which terminal he is logged on to, he or she is logged on to. Okay, which client, which T code they were, everything like this. Not only this, you can have different transactions where you can identify like trace, like if user saying no, I'm not logged on, or if somebody has taken your credentials and logging on from a different terminal, you can trace all those things here. Okay, so this transaction is very useful to track the number of users who are logged on. Okay, and it shows you the system wide user list. Now the next transaction which we are seeing in this video is the ICM monitor. Okay, the SMICM transaction. You can use this transaction to monitor and administrate the Internet Communication Manager, which sends and receives requests to and from the internet. So if we have a Java stack, if your system is a dual stack, okay, then you can use this SMICM transaction to monitor this ICM. Okay, the Internet Communication Manager is running on the application server instance. On the initial screen, you can see the general information about the status and the configuration of ICM and the list of configured worker threads. These are the worker threads which shows the activities of each worker thread. Okay, so immediate thing, every instance has its own ICM. Okay, so every instance has its own ICM, dispatcher and gateway. You find only one message server for their entire SAP system, but individually you will have an ICM for every instance. Okay, so we can run this and check if the ICM is active or not. Okay, if it's green, it's running, yellow means it's starting, red means it's not running. Okay, restart after error means after error, if you say true, then it will restart automatically. Okay, and here you will see the worker threads. Okay, because even this ICM has to receive requests from the web, so it has number of threads. Okay, that means like, see, this first thread is running. Okay, and it shows like administration. So administration means like for ICM self maintenance activity, this thread is being used. Similarly, like if another thread is used for another purpose, like to get request from the client or to send the request to a server, like whatever it is, then here even that thread will be running and that request will be shown here, and this number shows like so far how many requests that thread has processed. Okay, this is the number for that. Okay, so ICM is used to administer the Internet Communication Manager. So every instance has its own ICM. Okay, and if it's a Java stack or dual stack, okay, this ICM is responsible for it will read the web URL and it will differentiate whether this has to go to the ABAP stack or the Java stack. Okay, if a dual stack system is there, then it will dispatch it accordingly. Okay, so even here, like the created worker threads, like how many threads are there and the connections used. Okay, and the queue and entries queued, like similar to a dispatching, right? So even it has its own queue entries also, like how many are waiting or whatever it is. Okay, so this is the current one, this is the peak value, and this is the maximum value. Okay, maximum configured value, peak till how much it went, and this is the current one. Okay, so that is about SMICM. This is the ICM monitor. Okay, so just to brush up, we have started in today's topic with STO3N. That is the SAP workload monitor transaction. Okay, so this gives the workload across the various instances on the system. Okay, then after that, so here that's what on the left side we can select whatever view we want, the date, whatever instance or the system, the time period and the different view, and on the right side data will be displayed. Okay, then next one we went to STO4N, where it's the database monitor. It shows the different aspects where you want to troubleshoot the database performance. Okay, and this transaction can be run from any server because they all share the common database, and whatever values you see, it's same across the system. Okay, and this is very useful for database problems, for troubleshooting and identifying database issues. The next one, AL08, this displays the users logged on to the system. Okay, then the total number of users and instance wise also. Here you can see the number of different users like dialog, RFCs or the plugin, the HTTP users, and the external or internal sessions, all these things. Then the next one, SMICM, again this is used to monitor the internet communication, the ICM monitor. Okay, so here it has to be running, right? If it's a dual stack, then this is a must and it should be up. Okay, so we have seen STO3N, workload monitor STO4N, the database monitor AL08, that is the total number of users in the SAP system, and SMICM, the ICM monitor. So today again in this video we have seen 4 different transactions. Okay, so in the next video also we'll see different transactions used for which are used in SAP daily monitoring. Okay, thank you.